Corruption Watch is calling for the State Capture Commission report not to become another white elephant. The organization says action must be taken in the form of investigations and prosecution of those implicated as recommended by the Commission. Karam Singh, Executive Director at Corruption Watch, joins me now for more on this. A very good afternoon to you. Thank you so much for joining us. As a nation, we were perplexed, really shocked by what came out of those reports. And of course, reading further, we saw that the matters were much more intricate than what we saw during the testimonies aired on television. But now what? What do we do as South Africans with this information?
Well, thanks so much. Thanks for having me on the program and asking this difficult question. I think really what we're interested in now is pushing for consequence management. So it's really about accountability for what happened under state capture. The Commission has done an outstanding job of producing a report that comprehensively represents all the testimony received and the various evidence presented to it. And with that, they've been able to come up with findings and recommendations. And we have a historical record now of what happened over that 10-year period and beyond. If it wasn't for the Commission, we wouldn't have this kind of a record. We wouldn't have this kind of transparency. There would still be so many questions left unanswered about what actually happened. The issue now is, what do we do with this record? The Commission has finished their mandate. With the submission of the report, their job is done. Now it's really for mandate holders. It's for the cabinet. It's for the president. It's for the National Prosecuting Authority and the police to exercise their mandate as pursuing justice under the Constitution and in terms of our rule of law.
And as we try perhaps to look at the past and look at South Africa's constitutional democracy, what happened then and how then affects us going forward, what is it that stands out as we take stock and perhaps reflect on the past for a better future?
Well, I think we have this outstanding constitution, right, that took us from the apartheid era into a democratic era. It is a constitution based upon fundamental principles around the rule of law, around non-discrimination, around equality, and a break from the past. In the democratic era, we've seen numerous commissions of inquiry, going back to the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, that embraced the spirit of the Constitution, embraced principles around transparency and accountability. But we haven't seen the fruit of the work of those commissions in terms of implementations systemically of their recommendations. We didn't see it with the TRC. We saw a botched Arms Commission inquiry. We haven't seen justice for the widows and the families of the miners of Marikana. And if on the current trajectory we've been, we're not going to see justice for corruption flowing from the Zondo Commission unless we approach this thing fundamentally differently than the way that we approached the previous commissions of inquiry.
What about the SIU's role? We've seen them speaking about how they're going to be following up and freezing accounts linked to state capture corruption. What do you make of the work that they're doing and the pace at which they're moving?
Well, that's incredibly positive. And, it's important to understand that the SIU has a different mandate and that the SIU gets their mandate via a presidential proclamation. So no doubt there are ongoing SIU investigations where there's an overlap with facts and informations and suspects that we find coming up in the state capture inquiry. So one is excited to see the SIU execute their mandate in terms of pursuing forensic investigations and going after civil recoveries of stolen money. And they can do that through the special tribunal. Is it enough? Is it fast enough? I think the SIU is probably doing the best that they can within their existing capacity, given the scale of the challenges. They've also been seized with the PPE and a range of other investigations. But certainly, I think we can look to the SIU to help lead this fight back and this thirst we have for consequence management.
Just last week, we listened into the ANC in Mpumalanga, and really at the center of the tensions was factionalism. And factionalism, of course, speaks to elements of corruption. What role can be played there when it comes to the ANC factionalism being a thorn in the fight against corruption?
Well, I mean, I think, the challenges within the ANC, unfortunately, then ripple, more broadly to the body politic. So, there are issues now around the implementation of the step-aside resolution that persons who are implicated in the Zondo Commission are asked to step aside. Now, the extent to which that can feed into perceptions around factionalism is very unfortunate. It's unfortunate for this ultimate pursuit of accountability, but these are issues that the ANC is going to have to grapple with. The ANC must understand that they are an agent, that they've been the leadership, and they're an agent of the Constitution, and ultimately they are going to be the agents of the change that we need or not. So we really need, the ANC has spoken about the need to evaluate the recommendations coming out of the commission. So we expect them to play their role too, but certainly the challenge around factionalism makes that much more difficult.
And when it comes to the Mpumalanga chair that was elected into office and the calls for him now to really step aside, what would you say about that and the processes that unfolded that resulted in him being elected?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be able to comment too much on the processes that led to the election, but I think for those who have allegations over their heads, for those who've been implicated in wrongdoing, the step-aside resolution should be implemented. If there needs to be a hearing, if there's a case to be answered to, then those processes should be followed. But certainly we're not really seeing. It's good that we're debating this issue, but these are issues now for the ANC to sort out and for them to abide by the resolutions coming out of the NEC.
Platitudes and social compacts, I mean, these are clear messages that need to be heard by President Cyril Ramaphosa in terms of a way forward and tackling and curbing corruption. What message do you think needs to resonate as the President maneuvers and makes some sound decisions to better the country?
I think, more consistent, more bold, and more decisive action in the space of anti-corruption. So, anti-corruption shouldn't just be, or the fight against corruption shouldn't just be a trope that comes out in the State of the Nation address or at a closing address at the Zondo Commission. We need to see sort of sustained commitment. We need to see a realization of the political will and the platitudes and the rhetoric in the actual action. So one would want to see the processing of the recommendations of the Zondo Commission happening as soon as possible. We've been told it will only happen in June. We need to see decisive leadership within the criminal justice sector around the lack of tolerance and the drive for accountability. And that must come from the top. That must come from the president.
Very well. Thank you so much for weighing in on this discussion. Corruption Watch's Karam Singh speaking about accountability as the State Capture Commission of Inquiry reports reveal the extent of corruption in South Africa.